approve the EIS before the city could approve it as being good in their opinion to go forward with this project.
That's correct. EISs do not get approved by any state agency. But I think that's one of the reasons that the city hired a team of peer reviewers to review the EIS before it's published, to make sure that there's an independent look at the independent look, and everybody agrees that it's complete.
Can we ask who the peer reviewers are?
Mark could give you that information.
The LEA is with ESA. They're our third-party independent reviewer of all the material. So Aaron Bowie and the LEA will be the city representative. So you may see the city staff, but they're independent in their review. They're the professionals, not city staff making those determinations. So that's why it's proper to get all the comments, have them studied, analyzed, and then the specialists on behalf of the city inform the decision maker prior to city action.
Can I answer your question?
There's a mic right there, Tom. That's for the recording.
The water availability is your question, and that's addressed in the environmental impact statement, but it's controlled in the building permitting process. So when we make application for a specific building with a particular water requirement, we ask for, and the city prepares a water availability certificate, and that in process of operation of the city's water system is reviewed by the Department of Ecology. So they can't give us water when there is no water. When the system is unable to support that new development, they will not issue a building permit. That's how it's controlled.
So they would only be able to approve phase 1. They cannot approve phase 2 or 3 because we already know there's not water available.
That's part of the analysis that needs to happen. That will be incorporated in the EIS, so we know where we have a trigger point.
Okay, I thought that was already determined.
Many folks might recall that not just applying to master plan communities or developments, but even in an entire city, just regular city, like the city of North Bend went into a 10-year water moratorium, or a building moratorium, because they realized they were exceeding their water rate with the state. And so before Ecology clamped down on that, they declared an emergency water moratorium that lasted for over a decade before they finally resolved that and got a monthly water rate to let any development happen. So to Tom's point, it doesn't just apply to a phase or a master project.
Right. Just with the Hearst decision, it does specifically state permits cannot be issued for future growth without water being readily available ahead of time. It can't be assumed to maybe be there later or maybe not be there later. It must be there now for permits to be approved. So you may want to look into that.
And as Tom said, Monica, we're not going to approve a phase or a building or a project unless we know that we can serve it with water.
And that isn't because of the Supreme Court decision. That's long-standing practice with ecology.
Right.
That's baked into the system. That protection is baked in.
My question is, how can the citizenry of this city feel certain that the interests of the entire community are being represented in that at the beginning of this process of annexation, the comprehensive plan had stipulations about how that annexation would occur, and those stipulations were removed. And it seems to me that the question really is, from what I hear a number of people asking questions around, is the city of Snoqualmie is very eager to have this development go forward for any number of reasons. How can the citizens of this city rely on their elected leaders and their staff if they don't actually hire a third party
short answer is we're not going to hire a third.
No, we would have to hire a third person.
I'm assuming that as part of the EIS, which I understand is a document that really lays out what the impacts are and doesn't make a decision in itself. It's used by decision makers in the decisions that they make. And the EIS would be used by a number of agencies, not only the City of Snoqualmie, but other people and agencies with permitting authority, including ecology, and presumably the Army Corps of Engineers, possibly if there's fill of wetlands and whatnot. So will the EIS lay out all of the permits that are required for the project and all the consultation that's being undertaken and really fully lay out everything required legally for the project?
Yeah. Yeah, all those agencies and parties have been noticed of the scoping session. If there are no more SEPA questions, we can proceed to the next phase, public comment. Do you have a SEPA question?
I'd like to know if noise pollution is part of the environment you're studying.
Yes, noise is section in the EIS that will be studied.
And it'll be more study than it's going to be just like at San Michelle.
All right, so let's start the public comment period. We have a list of people who signed up that want to speak. Let's keep it to a 3-minute limit for individuals, 5-minute limit for 501c3s. I will let you know when it's around 30 minutes.
We're recording this, so the preference is picking up on this nice mic. If you're shy, I can bring you the heads up.
And I apologize in advance if I don't say your name right. Maureen Ire.
Present. Hello, my name's Maureen Irie. I am a resident of Snoqualmie. I live in the Meadowbrook area, right close to the Meadowbrook Bridge, which was just redone a few years ago. And I have a major concern about people using that small little one-lane bridge to go to this development. The concerns I had with the water and the environmental protection studies, the questions have been presented and answered, so I won't go over that. I'm concerned about the traffic, definitely. I'm concerned about the venue use, not just the amphitheater, but breweries and wineries and all these over alcohol-induced people on this little road driving across the bridge. Hours of operation, where are people parking? This is going to connect with the trail that Snoqualmie, the city, is doing, which is taking out. They had proposed a couple of my neighbors' homes, and now I'll be going through possibly their backyards, which are on the river, and it's going to connect over here. So people parking on our little dead-end street to access this trail that you want to connect to this development. I thank you for the history you presented on the old mill, which most of us that have lived here for a number of years realize the history and have many family members in the past connected to that history. And it was a major employment endeavor, but that wasn't where the life of that land started. There was a life before the mill, and it maybe would be nice to see the life to go back to what it was before the mill, that just because it was this huge industrial complex that came up there, developed there, that doesn't mean we have to continue that way. And I have a feeling that we're in this direction of just development for the sake of development. I don't see how this is going to enrich my community. I don't see how it's going to provide a better life for our community. I shouldn't say mine, for our community. I don't understand why we are even doing phase 1. I am very concerned about the hazardous waste of that area, that cleaning it up would be fabulous, and turning it in just to trails and parks and back to where it was before the mill was put there 100+ years ago, where there's really no need. I don't see the need for all this development and retail and apartments and breweries and industrial, and I just am adamantly opposed to this moving forward. And thank you. I have many more things I could say, but there's lots of people here that probably do also. Thank you for the time.
James.
Shupsky.
Thank you.
It's a hard one. My name is James Shupsky. I live on Swenson Street up on the ridge. I'm an author, and I've done an extraordinary amount of research on this site. And what I want to tell you is that this site is a site of profound and unique historical importance. Things happened here that literally are baked into the DNA of our community. They shaped the history of our state. They defined the nature and the character of our nation, and they literally changed the world. So one of the things I was talking about earlier is that the mill was founded in 1917, and that's 100% correct. And at the time, this is the same year that the United States entered World War I. There were no white workers for the mill, and so the mill operators went to Japan, and they brought over hundreds of Japanese workers. These are the people that literally started the mill and carved the railways into the forest. Well, not long after, the U.S. Army determined that spruce was a strategic resource, and so they developed the Spruce Division, and its job was to increase production from 2 million board feet to 10 million board feet. This was essential for the war effort, and so they deployed soldiers to the mill. In fact, it was the 430th Squadron, Camp B. 50 men were stationed right there at the mill. They worked side by side with these Japanese workers, and they absolutely impacted the war effort. The spruce that was harvested here went to Boeing and actually created the world's largest wooden steamship, which by the way was named the Snoqualmie. Fast forward a few years, and the mill workers, the Japanese mill workers, stay on. These people become essential to the operation of the mill. And Weyerhaeuser is the first company in the United States to ever start talking about sustainable reforestation. This was a tradition that came from Japan because 200 years earlier, they had a deforestation crisis. And so the modern industrial standard for how we do forestry in the United States started right here at Snoqualmie Mill. And it was directly because of the Japanese workers who were there. Fast forward again to 1942. Order 9066 comes down, which orders the internment of all people of Japanese descent on the West Coast. So the mill workers, who had been a part of this community for decades, who had contributed to the war effort, who had redefined how forestry is done in this nation, they all get interned. In a matter of a week, they get sent down to Puyallup and over to Idaho.
30 seconds, James.
Okay, so the story doesn't end there. Some of those men joined the 442nd Infantry Regiment. This is the most decorated U.S. Army unit in history. Those boys died for a community that betrayed them, because the day after they were interned and they left the Snoqualmie Mill, their homes were burned to the ground. Now, what I'm here to tell you is that there is no site in 100-mile, in 1,000-mile radius that is more significant to the history of who we are as a people, not just as a community of Snoqualmie, not just as the state of Washington, but literally as a country. And so I want to be sure that as we go forward with these plans, and I think it's great that we're doing some really amazing things here, that we remember these people who fought and died for us, these people who contributed so much and sacrificed everything. I want to be sure that their contributions are not forgotten. That's all I have to say.
I just wanted to mention real quick before we go on to the next speaker, there was a typo on this site map. it says heavy industrial under the legend. It's just supposed to be industrial. Heavy industrial isn't permitted in this area, and it's not a part of the proposal.
There's one thing that I wanted to mention. The site of the Japanese bunkhouses, here on this image right here, unfortunately, the homes that were burned down and the people who contributed so much to our community, the current plan has those homes under a parking lot. And I think there's something better we can do than that.
Okay, thank you. Robert Petrani? Petrani.
I'll live at 40915 Southeast Running Road. So it should be recognized the Mill Pond site is a highly contaminated area still. In February of 1993, the Washington State Department of Ecology determined the sediment samples taken from the site contained high levels of oil and grease that test organisms are sensitive to. The presence of oil and grease in soil and groundwater is hazardous in many ways, including carcinogenicity and phototoxicity, as was stated by the National Biological Survey in 1996. Phototoxicity is a process in which some polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, react to light and produce cellular damage and DNA strand breakage. In addition to these finds, water samples taken directly from the mill pond were found to contain copper, zinc, and arsenic, all of which are substances associated with industrial discharge and are especially harmful to aquatic organisms and amphibians. Because of the state of the mill pond site, the required environmental impact study should include a runoff condition evaluation, which is not conducted in the 1993 study due to unusually dry weather. The 1997 National Park Service entry on environmental contaminants states that oil and grease is still an inappropriate measure when considering developmental, endocrine, and genotoxicity hazards. Better methods include the expanded scans of PAHs, and so it should be mandatory too to conduct a polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon scan. In addition to these requirements, because of the lack of readily available water available right now and sewer resources to the site, the study should also evaluate the ecological impact that making said resources would impart. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Coughing.
I live at 8054 Maple Avenue Southeast, and I'm the founder of a 501c3 Black Dog Arts Coalition. And I have a business in town. So, my first talking point is light pollution, which I haven't heard addressed, and I'm hoping that the EIS does address that. And birds that migrate or hunt at night navigate by moonlight and starlight. Artificial light causes them to wander off course and toward the dangerous nighttime landscapes. Migratory birds depend on cues from properly timed seasonal schedules. Artificial lights cause them to migrate too early or too late and miss ideal climate conditions for nesting, foraging, and other behaviors. And I'd like to mention that we do have a peregrine falcon nesting site at Snoqualmie Falls, at the top of Snoqualmie Falls. It's been a repeated nesting site for the last 7 years. Many insects are drawn to light, but artificial lights create a fatal attraction. Declining insect populations negatively impact all species that rely on insects for food or pollination. Predators exploit this attraction to their advantage, affecting the food webs in unanticipated ways. Nocturnal animals sleep during the day and are active at night. Light pollution radically alters their nighttime environment by turning night into day. According to research scientist Christopher Kyla, for nocturnal animals, the introduction of artificial light represents the most drastic change human beings have made to their environment. Glare from artificial lights impacts wetland habitats that are home to amphibians such as frogs and toads, whose nighttime croaking is part of the breeding ritual. Artificial lights disrupt the nocturnal activity, interfering with reproduction or reducing populations. Disturbing evidence has emerged showing that light pollution exacerbates air pollution. Each night, compounds called nitrate radicals break down polluting chemicals in the air that form smog and ozone. However, a recent study found that nighttime lights significantly slowed down this nightly cleansing. In 2007, the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences stated One of the defining characteristics of life in the modern world is the altered patterns of light and dark in the built environment made by the use of electric power. It stated that it may not be coincidental that dramatic increases in the risk of breast, prostate cancers, obesity, early onset diabetes have mirrored the dramatic changes in the amount and pattern of artificial light generated during the night in modern societies. Aside from light pollution, I asked the council and staff in the EIS the following questions and would like the answer available to the public. Many of my facts come from the draft shoreline inventory report from 2013 made with a grant for the city of Snoqualmie. Question number 1, what is your impact on endangered species? The mill pond site is in the floodplain, and upstream runoff will affect downstream fish, which are on the endangered species list, including Chinook salmon, bull trout, and steelhead. According to your shoreline inventory and characterization report of 2013, the southeast corner of segment 12, the mill site, is listed by the WDFW as a priority habitat for Roosevelt elk. 2 WDFW designated priority habitats exist within segment 11, which is the mill pond. One is the Snoqualmie River for Snohomish coastal cutthroat, and the other is the area surrounding and the higher ground in the center of Borse Lake that it is designated for the Roosevelt elk. Additionally, the river and its riparian buffer are considered fish and wildlife habitat conservation areas. Question 2. If developing in the floodplain, aren't you subject to a biological opinion from NOAA? Again, from your shoreline document, all of the mill pond or Borse Lake is located in the floodway of the Snoqualmie River. According to King County GIS mapping, the right bank of the river is rated as severe risk for channel migration. The mill site is located within the floodplain of the Snoqualmie River. The south and southwest portions of the mill site are documented as having potential for channel migration. Third question, what is your impact on the community? Traffic, air pollution, light pollution, congestion, lack of infrastructure, and I'd like to know who's paying for the new roundabout. Question 4, what is your impact on the environment? Question 5, have you done a wetland study? Again, according to your own shoreline document, the northern portion of your segment 12, the mill site, is mapped by King County as a Category 1 critical aquifer recharge area.
30 seconds.
Question 6, is this consistent with the comprehensive plan? According to the King County's recommendations before you annex, it is not consistent with theirs. 7, will the development create downstream flood hazards? 8, does this property have historical significance? And it sounds like it does. We know that segment 12 contains what remains of the former Lumber Company brick powerhouse and smokestack. And lastly, ask yourselves, does this development serve all members of the community or only a select few? In this consideration, you should take in those who live around us, as we are all connected. In my opinion, the mill site and Borse Lake should be a walking interpretive center focusing on the history, natural species of plants, trees, and vegetation, and protecting our sensitive wildlife population. This can be done by partnering with one of many interested land preservation organizations. Thank you.
My name is Dana Eubanks. I live at 40915 Southeast Rennig Road, less than a mile away from the mill pond site. In an FAQ released by the city in May 2011, City Council addressed mill site annexation concerns, stating that the overriding consideration for the city is city control of future land uses on the property and ensuring against heavy industrial uses in the future. That's a direct quote. However, according to the applicant developer's PCI plan, the entire Phase 2 planning area of the proposed development is slated for heavy industrial warehouse use. If approved, the pursuance of this project would represent a betrayal of tenuous community trust on the part of city leadership. I understand that you just addressed this concern. I do find it very interesting, though, that the city considered this application complete when such an intense zoning disparity was present in the application. And I did hear some conversation over there from developers earlier about potential boat building and some other heavy industrial things going on in some of those warehouses, so I think that that needs to be addressed. As detailed by the most recent environmental assessment conducted at the mill site in March 2015 by Associated Earth Sciences Incorporated, representatives of which are present here. Soil and groundwater containing hydrocarbon concentrations above Model Toxics Control Act cleanup levels were identified on the property at the time of the assessment's preparation. Additionally, quote, soil contaminated with PCBs still remain at depth between the T12 site, a site which, quote, would likely have to remain isolated and protected from any future site development. And according to the PCI plan up there, this site would fall directly in the pathway of the new Mill Pond Road. Arsenic and CPAH contamination were also detected, as well as potential tetrachlorophenol and PCP levels in groundwater above MTCA cleanup standards. In light of the fact that numerous remediation projects have been conducted at the mill site, mostly funded by Weyerhaeuser, the continued presence of these high levels of carcinogenic, teratogenic, and mutagenic contaminants may speak to the ultimate severity of the contamination. And earlier we heard the property owner claim that the land has been considered safe, but that has not been guaranteed through any of these assessments. In 1990, the Snoqualmie mill site was, quote, discovered by the Department of Ecology and placed on a statewide list of cleanup sites. For the past 27 years, the official status of the mill site has been, quote, awaiting cleanup. In a staff summary published by the City of Snoqualmie Planning Department on September 22nd, 2011, the term voluntary remediation is used in regards to the site. However, according to Department of Ecology Site Manager Donna Musa, who I just spoke to 2 days ago, the Snoqualmie mill site is not a voluntary cleanup site, and a site hazard assessment has never been prepared. Full compliance with the state protocol should be pursued before any future land use decisions are made. In light of our national political climate, our solemn responsibility as conscientious citizens concerned with the health and well-being of all residents of our community is to listen to and heed the information and recommendations of scientists, specifically those advising us through the EPA. For those of you serving on council and in the mayoral seat who aspire to one day ascend through the gamut of political leadership, let it be known that the decisions you make here and now in regards to the proposed development of the Snoqualmie mill site will reveal the degree of your earnestness and qualification as true progressive leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. David Effen.
Close enough. My name is Dave Eifert. I live at 6819 409th Avenue Southeast in Snoqualmie. I'm here as a citizen, not as a business owner. And in general, I feel very positive about the prospect here. I think that it'll bring jobs back, which left the community when Weyerhaeuser shut down the plant, and so I'm for it. However, Tom, that amphitheater, NFW, buddy. Okay. So I have friends who live on Hollywood Hill, up above the Chateau St. Michel Winery, and they routinely hear the concerts from there. They routinely dodge drunk pedestrians and drivers coming out of those wineries. So this amphitheater was characterized, oh, let me back up a sec. Those of you who haven't stumbled on this that are interested in this development, there's a website, it's snoqualmiemill.com, no space between Snoqualmie and Mill. And it gives you the vision of the organization that wants to develop the land, and looks to me like it's sort of a pitch page for people who might want to build there. Anyway, check it out, because it reads very differently than the materials that I read that the city has posted on the city's website, which use the term only outdoor venue, okay? But if you go to snoqualmiemill.com, you'll see a 31,000 square foot event venue, which if you go on the websites that tell you how much space you need for different size events, will tell you that that'll handle 3,700 seated people or 5,000 standing people. Tom, you said, quote, you're not going to, that the amphitheater is not going to compete with the noise you hear at the casino, okay? I'm telling you, I live just at about exactly a mile as the crow flies from the eastern side of the first parcel that you plan on developing. And I hear the casino loud and clear, and I have spent some time up in their face over that issue. Having as many as the casino has scheduled this summer, I believe it's 12 or 13 concerts, is going to be really devastating to my chosen lifestyle, living a mile out a dirt road in the woods, which is, I like to enjoy nice nights. Those are going to be the nights when the concerts are scheduled. You're going to have about 3,000 to 5,000 people driving in, clogging the streets. Then I'm going to hear several hours of overamped music, and I sure hope it doesn't involve all the overplayed hits of the 70s and 80s. But you know, I'm sure that Peter Frampton will come or something like that, and it's going to keep me from being able to enjoy my property that I've lived on for 23 years, and that's not fair, you know. And so I think that that's just a bad idea. So the people will watch the concert, then they're going to be driving out. And I know from my own concert going years, there will be a significant amount of drinking, smoking, and drugging going on at these. And so you've got 4,000 cars going back out after that. I mean, it's not fitting for our community at all. But the rest of it, go nuts. Thank you for your time.
Kit McCormick.
Hello, my name is Kit McCormick. I live at 6819 409th Avenue. And I've been a Snoqualmie resident for 23 years, and I am tired of the increasing noise pollution in Snoqualmie. The casino and Dirtfish exist to make a profit. That's their job, right? They need to make money. And so they're not interested in my problem with their racket. And the Snoqualmie Casino is slated this year to have 13 outdoor concerts. They'll be starting mid-June. And what I'm really looking forward to, I can tell you, not, is the idea that we would have another venue, which, by the way, is twice the size of the Snoqualmie Casino venue, that would double or more that amount of time. Now, we all know we just came through the worst winter in the history of the Western world, okay? I can't wait to get out there and drink a beer and have some peace and quiet and hear, oh, by the way, the nesting owls that are living on our property. And I am appalled that the city council would entertain the idea of adding to this disrespect for the place where we live. And so let me read you what it says on their website. I forgot my reading glasses. A 3.7 acre outdoor space extends toward a planned amphitheater, a backdrop of wetlands, the historical mill, and Mount Si. This area will encompass an outdoor stage to host large concerts and regional events throughout the Northwest. Really? Is that what we want here? So a quick peek at amphitheaters around. Here,